In the veil of darkness and the whispering winds, tales of the supernatural come to life. In the first story, The Haunting of Ravenwood Avenue, we follow a writer's insatiable curiosity as they venture into an eerie, abandoned mansion, only to discover a malevolent presence that refuses to let go. In The Forgotten Inn, our protagonist stumbles upon an age-old establishment steeped in history and tragedy, where the spirits of the past beckon with stories of love, betrayal, and redemption. Lastly, The Unforgiving Shadows tells of a skeptic's ill-fated exploration of a cursed mansion, where a vengeful spirit's hidden agenda leads to a chilling reckoning. Each story unfolds in its own realm of the supernatural, delving into the realms of the unknown, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and the price of curiosity can be steep. The Haunting of Ravenwood Avenue. The old house on Ravenwood Avenue had always fascinated me. It stood as a decrepit relic of the past, shrouded in an eerie silence that echoed through the neighborhood. As a writer with a penchant for the macabre, I couldn't resist the temptation to explore its mysteries. Little did I know that my curiosity would lead me into a nightmarish encounter with the supernatural. One chilly October evening, I gathered my courage and decided to venture inside the abandoned mansion. Armed with a flashlight, I pushed open the creaky front door, which groaned in protest as it revealed the pitch-black interior. The air inside was thick with dust and the musty odor of decay. I could feel the temperature drop, sending shivers down my spine. As I moved deeper into the house, the walls seemed to close in on me, and the oppressive darkness threatened to suffocate me. My footsteps echoed through the empty corridors, making it sound as if I were not alone. The only source of light was my trembling flashlight, casting eerie shadows that danced on the decaying wallpaper. I reached a grand staircase that spiraled upward, its steps covered in a thick layer of dust. Reluctantly, I began my ascent, each step groaning under my weight. At the top of the stairs, a long hallway stretched out before me, lined with closed doors. I chose the one at the far end, feeling an inexplicable pull towards it. The door opened with a long drawn-out squeak, revealing a room filled with antique furniture covered in dusty sheets. The room's centerpiece was an ornate mirror, framed in tarnished gold. As I approached the mirror, I noticed my own reflection, but it seemed distorted, as if the glass held a secret of its own. Suddenly, the room grew icy cold, and my breath fogged the mirror. In the mist, I saw a figure, a young woman with long dark hair and piercing blue eyes. Her gaze bore into my soul and her lips moved soundlessly. I couldn't hear her words, but I felt her anguish and despair. Terrified, I stumbled backward and fled the room, slamming the door shut behind me. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to make sense of what I had just witnessed. Was it a trick of the light or something more sinister? I continued to explore the house, each room revealing its own unsettling secrets. In one room, I found a child's nursery filled with decaying toys and a rocking chair that swayed on its own. In another, I heard the faint whispers of long-forgotten voices, their words unintelligible but haunting. As I delved deeper into the house, the malevolent presence grew stronger. I could sense that I was not alone, that something sinister watched my every move. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision, and cold fingers brushed against my skin. I stumbled upon a hidden staircase that led down to a basement filled with relics of a bygone era. It was there that I discovered an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. The journal belonged to a woman named Eleanor, who had lived in the house in the early 1900s. Her entries spoke of a tragic love affair that had ended in heartbreak and death. As I read Eleanor's words, I felt a deep connection to her sorrow and longing. It was then that I realized that the ghostly figure I had seen in the mirror was Eleanor herself, trapped in the house for eternity, her spirit unable to find peace. My presence had stirred something in the old mansion, something restless and vengeful. I knew I had to find a way to help Eleanor and put her soul to rest. But as I made my way back to the mirror, I felt a chilling presence behind me. I turned to see a shadowy figure, its eyes glowing with malevolence. It reached out with icy fingers and I felt a searing pain in my chest. The room spun around me as I collapsed to the floor, my vision fading to black. When I awoke, I was no longer in the old house on Ravenwood Avenue. I was outside, under the pale light of the moon. The house loomed behind me, silent and still. I knew I had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death. Eleanor's spirit had latched onto me, but somehow I had managed to break free. I couldn't help but wonder if she had found the peace she had been searching for, or if she still wandered the halls of the haunted house, waiting for another unsuspecting soul to set her free. I never returned to Ravenwood Avenue, and the old house remained abandoned, its secrets hidden from the world. But the memory of that fateful night still haunts me, a reminder that the supernatural world is far more terrifying than anything I could have ever imagined. The Forgotten Inn. The rain fell relentlessly, as if the heavens themselves wept for the dilapidated inn that stood at the crossroads of nowhere. It had been years since anyone had visited this forsaken place, and its faded sign, barely hanging on, read The Forgotten Inn. The stories that surrounded it were whispered among the locals, tales of hauntings and strange happenings that kept everyone away. But I was not one to be deterred by ghostly rumours. In fact, they drew me in like a moth to a flame. I was a writer, known for my fascination with the supernatural, and I had heard tales of the inn's ghostly inhabitants for years. With a sense of trepidation mixed with excitement, I decided to spend a night at the Forgotten Inn, hoping to capture the essence of its haunted history. As I entered the inn, the musty smell of old wood and dampness greeted me. The flickering candlelight did little to dispel the oppressive darkness that clung to every corner. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet, and the walls seemed to whisper ancient secrets. I approached the inn's front desk, where a cobweb-covered ledger lay open. The last entry was from over a century ago, and the name scrawled there was Isabella. It sent a chill down my spine, for I had heard of Isabella's tragic tale, the innkeeper's daughter who had died under mysterious circumstances. A dimly lit corridor led me to my room, where a four-poster bed covered in dusty, white sheets stood as the room's centerpiece. The air grew colder as I settled in, and I couldn't help but feel as if unseen eyes watched my every move. I decided to conduct an impromptu séance, taking out my Ouija board and lighting a few candles. With trembling fingers, I placed my hands on the planchette and asked, "Is there anyone here with us?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, to my astonishment, the planchette moved on its own, spelling out the word Isabella. Goosebumps rose on my arms as I realized I was communicating with the spirit of Isabella herself. I asked, "Isabella, why are you still here?" The planchette moved slowly, spelling out a heart-wrenching story. Isabella had fallen in love with a traveller who had stayed at the inn, and they had planned to run away together. But their love had been forbidden, and on the night they were to elope, Isabella had been found dead in her room under mysterious circumstances. Her spirit had been trapped in the inn ever since, searching for her lost love. I continued to communicate with Isabella, her story unfolding with each answer. She described how she had been poisoned, her last moments filled with confusion and pain. She spoke of her longing for her lost love, and the torment of being trapped in the inn for all eternity. Over the course of the night, I learned more about Isabella's tragic fate and the dark secrets that had surrounded the inn. It seemed that the innkeeper had been involved in her death, desperate to keep their illicit affair a secret. Isabella's spirit had been unable to move on, her love and betrayal binding her to the inn. As the first light of dawn broke through the windows, I felt a deep sadness for Isabella and her unfulfilled love. I knew I had to help her find peace, to break the curse that had kept her spirit trapped for so long. I ventured into the inn's basement, where I discovered a hidden compartment. Inside, I found a lock of Isabella's hair and a blood-stained letter that implicated the innkeeper in her murder. Armoured with this evidence, I vowed to bring justice to Isabella's restless spirit. I contacted a local historian and shared the details of my findings. Together, we pieced together the events that had transpired at the Forgotten Inn all those years ago. With the evidence in hand, we approached the authorities, and an investigation was launched into Isabella's death. As the truth came to light, the innkeeper's descendants were forced to acknowledge the dark history of their family. They sold the inn, and it underwent extensive renovations. Isabella's spirit, now aware that her story had been heard and justice served, began to find peace. In the years that followed, The Forgotten Inn became a popular destination for travelers seeking respite from their journeys. The tales of hauntings and ghostly encounters faded into distant memory, replaced by the warmth and hospitality of the new owners. I often returned to the Forgotten Inn, not as a ghost hunter, but as a guest. The spirits that had once haunted its halls had found their rest, and the inn had been transformed into a place of tranquility and solace. Isabella's love story, once shrouded in tragedy, had become a testament to the enduring power of love and the possibility of redemption, even in the face of the supernatural. The Unforgiving Shadows. I never should have ventured into that forsaken place, but my curiosity got the best of me. It was an old, decrepit mansion at the outskirts of town, known as the Blackwood House. The stories whispered about it in hushed tones were enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. But I, a skeptic and a lover of the macabre, couldn't resist the temptation to explore its dark secrets. The Blackwood House had stood abandoned for decades, its once grand facade now crumbling into disrepair. It was said to be cursed, haunted by the vengeful spirit of a woman who had died under mysterious circumstances. Her name was Mary Blackwood, and her tragic tale had become the stuff of local legend. One gloomy evening, under the veil of thick fog, I decided to confront the legends and uncover the truth. Armed with a flashlight and a camera, I ventured into the house, its creaky doors opening with a reluctant groan. The air inside was thick with the stench of decay and the palpable weight of despair. I cautiously made my way through the dimly lit corridors, my footsteps echoing eerily against the walls. The only source of illumination was my feeble flashlight, casting long, sinister shadows that danced in the corners of my vision. It felt as though the very walls of the mansion were closing in on me, suffocating me with their oppressive presence. As I explored deeper into the house, I came across a grand staircase that spiraled upward. Each step I took sent tremors through the ancient wood, creating an unsettling symphony of creaks and groans. At the top of the staircase, a long hallway stretched before me, lined with closed doors. I chose a door at random and pushed it open, revealing a room shrouded in darkness. My flashlight revealed little more than a dusty, tattered canopy bed at its center. I entered cautiously, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear. Suddenly, the room grew deathly cold. I could see my own breath, forming ghostly mist in the air. The temperature continued to plummet, and I felt an unseen presence drawing near. And then, there she was. A figure materialized before me, her form wispy and ethereal. It was Mary Blackwood, her eyes filled with a mournful longing. Her pale, translucent hands reached out, as if beseeching me for something. I stood frozen, my voice trapped in my throat, as Mary's spectral lips moved soundlessly. Her gaze bore into my soul, and her eyes seemed to implore me for a kindness, a release from the torment that bound her to this place. It was then that I understood. Mary was not the malevolent spirit the legends portrayed her to be. She was a lost soul, trapped between worlds, seeking solace and redemption. I mustered the courage to speak. "How can I help you, Mary?" Her spectral form flickered, and she gestured to a dusty old journal that lay on the bedside table. With trembling hands, I picked it up and began to read. It was Mary's diary, filled with heart-wrenching entries detailing her love for a man named Samuel and the tragic events that had led to her death. Mary's story unfolded before me. She had been accused of witchcraft, falsely condemned by a jealous rival who sought Samuel's affections. The townsfolk had dragged her from the mansion and executed her in the nearby woods. Her dying wish was to clear her name and reunite with Samuel. I promised Mary that I would help her find the truth and bring peace to her tormented spirit. She smiled, a sad and grateful expression, before fading away into the darkness. Over the following weeks, I delved into the town's archives, searching for any records of Mary's trial and execution. It took time, but I eventually uncovered the truth, the false accusations, the unjust trial, and the names of those responsible for her death. Armed with this evidence, I hoped to clear Mary's name and bring justice to her memory. But as I returned to the Blackwood house, I felt a growing unease. The shadows that once seemed merely eerie now felt malevolent, and the air grew colder with each step I took. I reached the room where I had first encountered Mary, and the atmosphere had turned hostile. The walls seemed to close in on me, and a sinister laughter echoed through the darkness. Mary's once peaceful presence had been replaced by something far more sinister. I realized too late the truth of the curse. Mary Blackwood had sought my help to exact her revenge on those who had wronged her. Her true nature, obscured by her tragic story, had been one of vengeful rage all along. The room became a maelstrom of spectral fury, and I could feel my own life force draining away. Mary's ghostly hands reached out for me, her eyes filled with malevolence. I had unwittingly become a pawn in her quest for vengeance. As darkness closed in around me, I understood the true horror of the Blackwood house. My fate was sealed, my soul forever trapped in the unforgiving shadows, just another victim of the cursed mansion and the vengeful spirit it harbored. Thanks for watching. To support us, please like and subscribe.